Hi, Sherry, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Sherry DeJanes. I'm an attorney here in the Kansas City metropolitan area. And I guess I've kind of made it my mission to help folks with this tax assessment debacle.
And we're so grateful for that because you were also engaged during the 2019 debacle as well.
Correct.
So thank you for being here with us today. The first question I have to ask about is paying under protest. If someone wants to do that, please tell us the circumstances that they need to consider before they do it and then the steps they need to take.
You would only pay under protest if you have filed an appeal and it hasn't been resolved by the time that you have to actually pay the taxes. It's a multi-step process and you've got to follow the statute exactly, which is why I have put together forms that we're going to be providing for folks if they want them here today. I'll also give out my email address so that if folks want to just get with me and ask me to send them the form, then I can do that via email. But it's you've got to follow a sequence of steps in providing information in a certain way, and then once you've done that, you've got to write pay under protest on your actual check. We've got a form for those that have a mortgage or a deed of trust on their property because they have to handle that slightly different than folks who have already paid off their home. We also are developing one for the seniors that are on the quad payment program.
Okay, and you're saying that after someone submits the letter to pay under protest, and you'll have a template available or they can
Correct.
email you for that, then there's something in the last line that says 90 days in a lawsuit. Can you talk about that?
Right. In order to basically complete the process, you've got to file suit against the collector. And that's another part where I come in. In 2019, we provided the service of actually putting together the lawsuit so that anyone who wanted to pay under protest and wanted to complete the process simply had to get with us and provide us the information that they submitted to the collector when they paid under protest. Then we put together the lawsuit, we file it, and we handle it from there.
And so what do people have to pay to participate in that lawsuit?
Nothing.
So you're not charging anything and you will help people?
Oh, absolutely. The cost to us is nominal in terms of hard costs because we simply have the filing fee to pay. There is also a service cost, but it's really not too hard to serve the collector right downtown. So there are nominal hard costs involved for us. And once we get the template down and we get folks providing us with the proper information, then I have a wonderful person, Deborah, who is volunteering to help us with this, and I'll soon have a new assistant. So we'll put it together, we'll get it on file, and we'll try to keep people apprised of what's going on.
Okay, so that is just an absolutely wonderful service that you will do that without charging people. And so I can't imagine why a person wouldn't do this. And so would you imagine that most people should pay under protest or not?
Oh, absolutely. If they have not had a resolution of their appeal, absolutely. Because if you don't, and even if you are successful with your appeal so that it would result in you having paid an overage, if you don't pay under protest, that overage simply gets applied to another year's tax burden. If you follow through with paying under protest and there's an overage, you get a check back right away.
Okay, good. And I think a lot of people have said that they thought they were paying under protest but didn't get their money back and it got applied to the next year. So that's good to know.
A lot of folks think all you have to do is write on the memo line of the check, pay under protest. And that's why I'm emphasizing we've got the template because the statute is very specific as to what needs to be done. And it's just too much for people that aren't in the legal field, typically.
Okay, and we'll make those letters available to people today, and or they may email you for one because you're going to need to track them once they complete the letter. You're going to need to know that so you know who's in the lawsuit or who's participating in the lawsuit.
Exactly. What we're going to try and do is have a little label at the bottom of the forms that we give out asking that they either mail a copy of that to me or they scan it in or take a photograph of it and email it to me so that we can then add them to the lawsuit and carry forward with it.
Okay, very good. And thank you for your service doing that, because that's just absolutely wonderful. So many people wouldn't be able to afford or know where to start. So that you're doing that is just a beautiful thing. So Sherry, I thank you for that. And I know many other people will as well. Let's transition to talk about the Senior Quad Program, because there's some part of this that if they're paying under protest, they need to be aware of. Can you tell us what the Senior Quad Payment Program is?
If you're over 62 years of age and you have property within the city that you personally own, it can't be owned by a trust, then you can file with the county to, instead of making a single payment by 12/31 of the year of payment, you break that up into 4 payments. Your first payment is due 12/31 of the year of payment, and then the others are due February 28th, May 31st, and August 31st. So if you're paying under protest, then you're going to submit this protest letter with your first payment. Now, to be on the safe side, I think it needs to be submitted with each one, but I'm going to look into that a little further and then get information out to folks. To be on the safe side, I'm going to say pay under protest with each one of your quad payments.
Okay, very good. And we will have information on the quad program today for people if they need it. So thank you again for that. And lawsuits. We've heard of a class action lawsuit. Can you tell us what's going on and if anyone else needs to file a class action or get engaged in one?
Well, there is currently on file one, which has to do with the failure of the assessor's office to get the notices out in a timely fashion, that time being June the 15th. There's a couple of individual plaintiffs, there are some commercial plaintiffs, and those folks act as representatives of all other taxpayers who did not receive their notices in a timely fashion. So people don't actually have to go say, oh, I'm going to be a plaintiff and add my name to that. I'm not sure how successful that will be. I know that in 2019, no fewer than 4 lawsuits were filed, and each one was dismissed for failure to completely exhaust their administrative remedies, which in fact was an impossibility. So it was just one of those technicalities to get rid of some nuisance. It's kind of like those gnats that come around in the summertime. That's how we who filed those lawsuits were treated by the jurisprudence system.
Which is unfortunate. But if someone wants to, if people are thinking that lawsuit's out there, are there any other grounds that someone may file another type of class action lawsuit this time?
A couple of folks have written to me about other possible grounds, and I'll just be very honest with you, I have not had the opportunity to look into those. I've reached out to some other attorneys, and we're going to kind of, to use a defense term, roundtable it and see what collectively we think of the ideas that have been presented and try to figure out if there are any other grounds out there.
Very good. And we can keep people informed if you come up with something, because we have contact information for most of the people who are with us today. So thank you very much for that, because that is a question that a lot of people are asking about. My final question to you is, once people have submitted or they're getting ready to submit their application for the appeal, what kind of evidence do they need? Do they need actual appraisal? Do they need to have comps from a real estate agent? Do they need estimates from contractors?
The only point at which an actual appraisal is needed is if you actually take up the matter and appeal it to the State Tax Commission. Gosh, I'm so sorry. The State Tax Commission does require an appraisal. In the informal and BOE, the same types of evidence are acceptable. If you are contesting the value based upon the need for repairs or remodeling, then ideally you would have an estimate from a company in the area. Realistically, that's not going to happen. There are a number of resources online where you can just basically plug in the kind of repair that you need to do. Many different sites will come up, but you need to look carefully because you want to have evidence-based estimates. I have put together a number of those, and if folks find themselves kind of in a bind and not able to actually figure out themselves what resources to use, they can email me and I'll provide them with some resources. The other thing is that the comps are also ideal, but we're kind of getting into the crunch period where the realtors that have been working with us are A, up to their eyeballs in alligators, B, getting a little worn out, and C, just kind of running out of time. So if you can obtain a comp, do so. You want to have 3, if possible, within a mile of your property, unless it's unique, that resembles your property in square footage, number of bedrooms, etc., etc. I do have the names of a few realtors are still willing to do this. So again, if you want to email me, I can provide you with a list of folks to give you comps.
Okay, and what date, like if someone needs to file the appeal by the 31st, by July 31st, but they don't have the comps, they don't have their evidence in, what can they do? Are they just out of luck?
Nope, they file and then they come back in, and there is a place where you can upload secondary evidence. So it's just a necessity to file by the 31st, and then you can go back in and you can upload. At the time that you would actually file the appeal, you would also ask for an informal.
Very good. And so you can check and submit evidence all the way up until the time of your actual appointment.
I would say within 48 hours of it, because you want to make sure that they actually get it. And especially if you're going to do the hearing by Zoom, which I understand still to this date, the BOE is going to do all of their hearings by Zoom. You want them to be able to upload those, look at them before you actually get into the hearing room. But if you can't get them in until the day of, go ahead the day of. It's just going to be better to do it in advance.
But you must submit the evidence online. You can't, if you're in person, you can't hold up a phone or bring a phone in with the evidence. You must submit it online through their channels.
That's correct. Now, I believe for the informal, some of which they're still holding in person at 1300 Washington, you can print those out and bring them in. So if you're not tech savvy and you do have photographs and you do have estimates, print those out, bring them with you. I want to emphasize again, and I've done it each time, if you go for an informal review, the very first thing out of your mouth needs to be, please let me see the comps the assessor used to reevaluate my home. Then take a look at them and make sure that they are in fact comparable on all levels to your property. They're notorious for pulling wrong comps.
Yes, they are. And there are certain dates, the date ranges. I'm hearing a lot of different things about which dates the comps have to be within.
Since the value is established as of January 1, 2023, ideally it would be within the 6 months prior to that. And I say ideally because that's when the home prices started going down a little bit, and you don't want high comps. But the full year of 2022, the time frame when they did their reevaluation, is fair game.
Very good. And thank you for that. And finally, how can people reach you?
LadyLawyerKC@gmail.com. LadyLawyerKC@gmail.com.
All right, that is it. Thank you for spending time with us today, even though you're not here in person. Thank you, Sherry DeJanes.
My pleasure. Thank you. Okay.